Hi and welcome to one of my vlogs. This one's actually a follow-up to a blog that I wrote recently, which was begging the question whether it's best for me to return back to the UK after 12 glorious years here in Thailand for the good of my kids and education. You see, education can be a little bit expensive out here, and so it makes it a little bit confusing as to where best to live. On top of that, my Russian wife, well, she's had enough of Pattaya and wants to get out of Thailand, and it's all very much up in the air. But when I look at my lifestyle, I really don't think it can be beat, and the thought of going back to the predictability and routine of living in the UK fills me with a little bit of fear. I've only got to look at the Facebook feeds and compare feeds of my friends that live in Thailand to the feeds of my friends that live in UK, and they're poles apart. And in fact, it's almost tragic that my friends back in the UK don't get to experience some of the things that I'm very fortunate to experience on a daily basis. For example, I've just finished work, I'm at home now, and after I finished work I went to the local sauna and steam, swam a few lengths in the pool outside, laid out in the sun was still out at 6 PM, stopped off at a local restaurant, had some food, couple of pints, and now I'm back home. But this is very usual. It's very usual for me to go for a run in the evening along the beach, take the kids down onto the beach, maybe we'll go out somewhere to eat. Just round the corner from me is the biggest play area for kids in Asia, and it's just non-stop. So when I try and think about what my experience was like back in the UK 12 years ago, it's very blurry. I just can't remember. And my brother, who lives back in Kent, is where we come from, he says I am a little bit deluded. I've forgotten what it was like in the UK and not to come back in any circumstance. For me, I still remember the summer months on the weekends, on a Sunday, walking down to the local pubs to watch the football, have a few beers with my friends. Fantastic memories they were. But then it kind of stops there, apart from the odd holiday that I had. And of course, that's not on your terms. You can't just suddenly have a break. It's within the school term time, or you only get so many weeks holiday a year. Here it's a little bit more liberating and people are a bit more relaxed. So it comes back to my blog I made last week, which was suggesting that my time here may have to come to an end because I'll have to go back and find some better schooling. But the response I got was astounding, and it wasn't just from retirees, but the ones I had to take seriously were the professionals that lived here. And some of these guys that I work with have become multi-millionaires, and you have to take very seriously what they say, because they're not out here for the lifestyle, they're out here to make money, and have made much more money than most people I know back in the UK. So some of the messages, and in fact the underlying message was don't go home, but I need to read some of these out, because one guy, he said, what you get from the international schools in Thailand, which you won't get in public schools in Europe, are personality development, such as charity work to leadership development, and in spotting any up and coming issues such as bad behaviour from mixing with the wrong groups. I never thought about that before. Now I know from visiting St Andrew's School in Rayong, they said their class sizes were only 16. Wow, you know, I'm sure the class sizes in the UK were over 30, and the facilities that I've seen here, they're world class. If my kids were going to go back to the UK, it would just, the facilities would not come up to scratch. And I can't help but wonder that by sending them to the private schools in Thailand, they get to mix within better circles and are kept away from the likes of drugs, alcohol, and whatever you have. And if this guy's message was true, then the teachers will also take a wider look and investment in time of the kids over here. Another guy who's worked over here, who I don't know very well, he sent me a very long message. I'm going to read something here. He said, I asked myself and other people asked me the same questions when I decided to move to Thailand. That happened exactly 23 years ago next Saturday. I replied that I didn't want to be part of a system that squeezes you out, tortures you on a daily basis, and lets you live only for the weekend. I think if anyone's watching back in Europe, they can relate to that weekend life. So why in heaven should I provide that for my children? So he was saying, you know, what's the point in going back to Europe and your kids only getting to live for the weekend? Surely you only want the best for them, and the lifestyle is absolutely here. My oldest son was free when we moved. He went to a bilingual school, Ramkahang University. Today he's 26, he's a lawyer, he's got a nice girlfriend, he's working in Bangkok, and he's doing very nicely. And he references that some other poster that posted on my Facebook page said, easily you can become in the top 10% if you come here and go to the private schools, and there's no way you would get that. And he said here, back in Germany. So he said, absolutely don't leave. Very nice to get that, and it was just consistent. There was not one person that said you need to go back. Some were sitting on the fence, but the consensus was don't go. So it got me thinking, maybe I was approaching this wrong. Maybe me thinking about going out to the UK was for the good of my kids, where it could be to the detriment of my kids. They're hardly going to stand out unless they excel, and with larger class sizes and poorer facilities, how can I expect them to jump out from the crowd and do very well? Yet if I was to do a more selfless act and invest more of my money that I earn over here into their education, into the fantastic facilities that exist here, the chances for them to excel is much higher. In Thailand, my wife's Russian, they'll speak English, Russian, Thai, Chinese. In England it will be English and Russian. Forget French and German. Whoever came out of school in the UK having been able to crack that? None, because the schooling wasn't strong enough. The other thing I noticed when I was back in the UK last time is the school that I used to go to resembled more of a prison with the gates locked up. So I was going to challenge my wife and take her to a few international schools in Pattaya, Bangkok and Hue Hin, then try and take her for a tour of one in Kent in the UK. I'm sure she would see in that first instance just how different they are. So bottom line is, I think that my kids can do better over here, and it's safer. In fact, changing the subject just slightly, one of the guys said, I challenge your wife to go back to the UK, walk the streets at 11 o'clock on her own and see how safe she feels. And another said, you only need to go out in the wrong football colours and walk around the street and you run the risk of a bloodied nose. I just don't feel that over here. And when I look at the mess of the UK at the moment, as they come to terms with Brexit and other such matters, and in fact I'm looking at the celebrations in the UK with the football fans, and it just looks completely over the top and unacceptable. Jumping on cars, climbing on buses, I don't know. So really that's it. Decisions. Sometimes I wish I was not in such a positive position where I had all the opportunity to make these decisions, but I must say that from where I was sitting in my stance of last week, it's changed based on the response of people that have gone in contact with me. To me, returning to the UK looks painfully predictable, restrictive, and I've not seen any role models from my peers back in the UK to make me want to jump back into that life. I'll be interested to hear what your views are. So do get in contact, make some comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, because I'm striking distance from the 1,000 likes, and look forward to speaking to you next time. See ya.